Danaher, victory at who's number one, I suppose. You had two athletes on the card, including the main eventer, Nicholas Meregali. Please take me through your thoughts immediately following the event.
Yeah, I'm very, very happy for young Davis Asadi, who's made his big professional debut tonight. It's always tough, psychologically going out. It's got a completely different look to it when you first go out to compete. There's lights, there's people you don't know, you're in a strange city, and it's very different from the usual thing that a young amateur athlete deals with. The professional scene it's got a very different aesthetic to it, and that can throw a lot of people off. But he looked very, very calm, very poised. He looked like he belonged on the stage, and I was very, very happy. He went up against a truly elite level wrestler. I don't think many people know just how good Nick is in pure wrestling. This is a guy who went up against Olympic champions and gave them very, very tough fights and wrestling matches, and he's as good as they get in wrestling. And of course, when you merge wrestling and jiu-jitsu together, you get a very potent combination. So for Davis to take on someone who is both bigger and stronger and such a fine wrestler and do so well is very, very gratified.
Absolutely. What went into preparing for such a unique opponent for Davis?
Davis has so many matches coming up. He's competing so often that we couldn't just put on a separate camp for this, because he was competed as recently as last week. So and he's very early in his career. So at this stage it's more about building foundational skills, and then he just has to apply those against whoever he's matched against. And you can see that he has the creativity to be able to do exactly that.
So overall, you judge his performance as you would say you're happy with his performance?
I'm delighted, yeah.
In the main event, your student Nicholas secured a submission win. Can you take me through your thoughts on that match?
Yeah, well, Nicholas has been focused almost entirely on no-gi training in his time here in Austin, Texas, but will occasionally put on like a 3-week camp for gi competition. And it's fascinating to see the degree to which no-gi training influences his gi work. Nicholas is always, when I first looked at him, one of the first observations I made is he had an offensive bias in his game. His game was much better with offense than it was in defense. And I talked to him early in his time training with us and said, this is something that needs to be rectified. You can't be all offense and weak on defense. You've got to be equally good at both at the highest levels. This is very, very important. And so a big part of his early training was working with things that he thought were rather mundane, almost beginner level defense. And that was the first step. The second step is that he had a fantastic guard utilizing outside positioning of the feet, very strong de la Riva, etc., but was underusing inside positioning from bottom, from guard, and this needed to be rectified. And the third major thing that he really needed to develop was top pressure. He had a good ability to attack in skirmishes from top, nice loop strangle, things like this, but he didn't have the ability to just bolt people down to the mat, pass, and get into dominant top mounted position. And so these three things he put a lot of work on in no-gi, and then to everyone's surprise, perhaps even Nicholas's, when he started training in the gi, these carried over incredibly well with just a few minor adjustments in grip. And you saw some of that tonight. He actually got off to a rather slow start, and his opponent came up to a very fast start and almost took his back. And that's where the defensive training kicked in. And you could see he was very, very comfortable. A similar thing happened at the Pan Am Games, where someone went after his back and he uses this now as a reversal. He's so confident in his defense that he can partially expose his back just to get top position. Then you saw the idea of his top pressure. When Nicholas gets mounted now, gi or no gi, it's a serious problem. It's very, very difficult to get away from him. And he's gotten to a level now where he has sufficient top pressure that he can do what he did tonight. He can start calling his shots. He can say, okay, I'm going to finish this guy with this move. That's when you start to see genuine control. When you're saying, not only am I going to win, I'm going to win along these lines. And that that's a demonstration of real control.
What goes through your mind as a coach when you see, because he's not your only athlete who is willing to call a shot and that is successful with it, what goes through your mind as a coach when you see one of your own athletes call his shot in this manner?
It's a great sign, because it indicates there's no clearer indication that they're working with the idea of total control of their opponent's movement than the ability to call your shots. That's the ultimate in jiu-jitsu.
Would you say that Nicholas successfully executed what he was planning on doing tonight?
Yes. He was hoping to demonstrate a lot of his guard work, but there was no opportunity. He got top position almost immediately in the match. So almost everything tonight was top pressure based.
What do you think of Nicholas's call out of whoever the upcoming IBJJF Absolute Black Belt World Champion may be?
I think it's fascinating. I think it's a great way to select the person who has the clearest proof that they're the best in the world at this time to face Nicholas. There's a bunch of talented people he could be matched with, and the one who will attract the most attention will be the one who most recently wins worlds. There's a bunch of likely candidates, and any one of them would make a fantastic match in a professional organization like WNO.
We appreciate that. Looking at the card tonight, was there anything else about the event beyond your athletes that particularly stood out?
I was really happy to see Isaac Marshall back in action, and he's had some injuries after ADCC. He put on one of the great matches of ADCC, and it's wonderful to see him back on stage and doing his thing. I thought he showed tremendous positional work tonight against a very, very tough opponent. And the other one was very gratifying to watch, was Rafael Lovato in front of his students and home crowd, put on an amazing performance against a very, very tough opponent, and came through with a beautiful submission victory, beautiful stranglehold, and I thought that was just a really special moment.
When you look at this event, it was promoted with Nicholas on top talking about making the gi great again. Can you talk to me about what you think when you hear that phrase, make the gi great again?
The truth is that when we start jiu-jitsu, the thing that attracts everyone to it is the idea of control that leads to submission. What makes jiu-jitsu exciting to watch is dynamic movement on the one hand and control of your opponent's movement on the other in ways that lead towards the soul of the sport, which is submission. As long as you stay true to those central concepts, it doesn't matter whether it's gi or no gi. I know there's been a strong sentiment in jiu-jitsu over the last 5 years that the gi is a dying industry, and it doesn't have to be that way. The gi just needs industry leaders who come out and extol the same virtues that made no gi exciting in the gi. And as long as you work with that idea, I'm going to go out, I'm going to create dynamic movement, I'm going to take risks, and I'm going to try to submit my opponent.
When we talk about making the gi great again, obviously we can't accomplish that with one event, right? How long of a project do you see that as? Do you have any kind of idea, like how big of an investment that may be for Nicholas or for your other athletes?
It's always difficult to give timelines on things, but one thing is clear. Jiu-jitsu is like any other industry. When you have outstanding leaders, they will create movement that people want to follow. And Nicholas Meregali, I think it's pretty clear, has established himself as a leader of gi jiu-jitsu. There are other fantastic athletes out there. I think Mika Gavon and Tainan industry leaders. These guys all have an exciting, dynamic style. They truly extol the virtues of control that leads to submission. I think there's a core of people out there that can really make for exciting gi matches across various weight divisions. But I was delighted that Nicholas was able to come in and make a really strong opening statement. It was a great start for professional gi grappling, and however long it takes, I'm confident that the gi can re-emerge as one of the forefronts of the sport.
Before we get out of here, is there anything else on your mind, Professor?
that was great.
Just one last one, Joe. You can answer it, Joe, but I just wondering, have you spent time here in Oklahoma before? Is this your
No, first time.
first time? Just curious your thoughts of Oklahoma, the crowd and everything like that. What do you think?
Professor, this is our first Who's Number One event in Oklahoma City. What did you think of the venue, the crowd, all of it?
It was great. I've never actually been to Oklahoma City before. I've been in America all this time, and most of my time has been in very set places. So I've never been here before. The crowd was fantastic. They were very knowledgeable about jiu-jitsu. Many of them were local jiu-jitsu students, and it's great to see that kind of grassroots following. And as I said earlier, it was a special moment to see Rafael Lovato Jr. win in front of a fervent and vocal crowd. People seemed to know each other. They certainly knew a lot about jiu-jitsu. Every time athletes performed a move, you could see them. There was understanding being exhibited. So I was very, very happy.
Awesome. Well, we certainly appreciate the time. We appreciate the knowledge and everything, Professor. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
See you soon.
Thank you.